with technology, self-taught forever. I came to the Institute a little more than a year and a half ago. Sky, I think, has been in the longest, by the way. And the wonderful thing is, there were so few members in the beginning, we all became very good friends, okay? And when I say friends, yes, you can be friends even though you're Zooming 99% of the time. But we would have an opportunity to get together with Noelle. I live in right outside of DC, and Noelle is a frequent flyer for events in DC. So I actually get to see her quite a lot. Again, my tech background, I am self-taught. I do not have a normal career. I was never a software engineer, thank God. But I did work for a lot of organizations that use pretty high-powered technology, and that is, I work for, if you know the name Today Show, the television program, and I did a lot of editing. I was involved. Do any of you know what the America's Cup is, the sailing race? That is the oldest event in the world in terms of a trophy. I was involved with that, and I'd be all over the world, and I would always hang out with the TV guys to see satellite feeds were brand new after the Australians won. And so I was always curious. But then I started volunteering when I moved to Virginia 20 years ago, again, right outside of DC. I started helping neurodiverse individuals. And I don't know why, but I'm one of those people who could always communicate with older people. And even if they were neurodiverse, if you had dementia, I would always try to find a way to bring out conversation, memories, etc. And so when ChatGPT came along, well, of course, when Alexa came out, I was having individuals install those like a crazy woman. Why? Because voice command, I knew neurologically was something really important. And it's important for all of us, right? Remember what your mother probably told you when you were little, don't ever talk to people who are talking to themselves, like if you're somewhere. Well, it turns out talking even to yourself is a good thing neurologically. So the deal is that I was a big evangelist for Alexa, and I was on a panel, the very first panel for Amazon for voice. It was their first voice summit. And I was on the panel convincing people why everybody of a certain age should have Alexa, meaning older population, for music alone, because, I don't know if you've seen the documentary about age, music and how neurologically it's a good thing. And you can find people with the most extraordinary depths of Alzheimer's suddenly remembering the lyrics to a Beatles song or something from the 1940s or 50s, because even though the neurons are affected, our brains have a way to find those file cabinets where that information is stored. So today, what I have focused on in the last several years is using the gift of AI, and most of the time chat, but me personally, I use them all. I mean, it's impossible not to test drive. In fact, Noelle makes us test drive a lot of the apps, which is a good thing. But I actually pay for quite a few, probably too many, to get to get the feedback in terms of the emotion and so forth. And so I'm almost done with a book called Recreational AI. And why that's been important is that I don't know if any of you ever took care of your, loved ones, somebody in your family, when they were old, but caregivers is a huge topic, which I'm sure you understand is a big job. And so with AI, I started giving them tool sets of how to interact with the people that they took care of, as well as themselves. I mean, I went to a client's house and this woman grabbed me aside and she was Jamaican and she dragged me into the bathroom of her client and she said, I am going to kill him. I'm going to kill him with that thick Jamaican accent. And I said, it's okay. It's okay. So I immediately grabbed my phone and I go, I'm about ready to kill an 87-year-old man. I'm really exhausted. I've had to change his diapers 3 times and da, 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 and can you help me? And immediately Chad came back and I said for 2 minutes, came back with the most extraordinary set of instructions. Breathing. There were like 4 breathing change ups and talking about how she could go out and talk to the person again. And the change in her emotions was extraordinary. I mean, I loved it. And and the other thing that helped is I knew she wasn't going to go home and take it out on her relatives, right? Because how would you like to have that job and you're dealing with, frankly, it's not a great job of taking care of somebody who you have to feed, do the hygiene, all that stuff all day long, and you're going to go home to your family and you're not going to be in the greatest mood. So that by using the suggestion of using AI as a companion piece to calm it down, I feel like I've given a lot of these caregivers um, a safety net. And in fact, I get yelled at because, faith-based people always, every church seems to have a caregiver group in person. They all have the same stories, how many times their mother, threw their food at them or had other, or wandered out of the house. And so I've kind of changed it up to take it away from sensationalism into results. And the other thing I was going to tell you that's wonderful that again from your experiences is that for me, playtime, no matter what age you are, I don't care if you're 4 years old with AI or 90 years old with AI, playtime, meaning I love to make up fairy tales. I use fairy tales that we know, Cinderella, Snow White, um, the Three Bears. Um, I just have so much fun and I make them always one act plays, very short. And it is wonderful to see the response of people taking on the characters. And again, if they're neurodiverse, they're using their voice, they're reading, which is terribly important. And so that is one part that I wanted to introduce of the kind of work that I do. Um, it is so rewarding. Like today, I teach a class every Wednesday, or well, I had to do it today on Friday because I was tied up on Wednesday. But it's a facility that has 346 people, and I've been teaching them AI. And it is such a turn on. A woman today from Nigeria, I taught her how to use DALL because again, they're only using free apps, and DALL is a free drawing app. And it was fantastic. She was going crazy with all the African costuming. And then I taught her how to prompt, how to do sensory things like have the woman stirring, but taking her breath in and everything. And she was squealing the whole time. It was just so much fun to see her getting so excited about the results. And then in the meantime, the other people who were in the class, I was just giving them basic prompting because, most people have stopped at Google style prompting, right? I want to go on vacation. I want to take I want a flight that's on a Wednesday after 4 p.m., whatever. So when they're not used to the robustness of what these apps can create for them. And I absolutely love it. And one of the favorite thing is because this building is HUD, and what that means is they're 100% federally funding. There's 2 things that qualify you to be in the building. You're old and you're poor. Okay. So I will take people who have budgets of $25 a week. I know this is going to shock you, but are you aware? Well, you probably are aware that you can literally say where you live. You can say the kind of foods that you like. You say the budget, and Chat, for example, will aggregate the products. Take beans. I make them, I always recommend eat a lot of beans because it's protein and it's usual. Do you know that the apps will price control? And I will say the three supermarkets that are closest to them so that the current market value at those supermarkets can be delivered. Again, these are the kind of things with people who are aging to make their lives simpler. My goal, by the way, is to every single person have their own app, agent. What does that mean? You know, if you've been with Noel long enough, you know that you can bake an agent very easily now without coding that can aggregate everything about a person's life. And if you have the URLs of the places, whether it's their church, their supermarket, their schedule at the building, whatever, as long as you're aggregating the right information where they are responsible to update their information, it's a win. Um, and that's a very powerful thing because, again, 90% of them only have smartphones. And when I say smartphones, we can't deal with the people with flip phones yet. We're trying to get those replaced, but you can see it. But now I'd like to flip over and and I will say one thing, if you ever want to ask, again, I did not have a normal life. I did international business in terms of art market stuff. I even wrote a play that was done off Broadway. I owned a restaurant at one time, crazy. I did the Today Show, but I did marketing on an international level for sports marketing, like the America's Cup for about 15 years. And I did the very first URL for a major sport, the America's Cup, in 1994 with SAIC, who at that time owned Woes. Remember, when you wanted to start a URL, you would go to Woes to get your name. And they were the sponsor. And so it was pretty incredible. We were the ones, or the first people, who put an image on a URL for the World Wide Web. Okay. And although that seems like that's pretty boring, Sherry, but at the time, that was really big stuff. That was really big stuff. So moving on, I found that when the ageism piece of this I wanted to represent, I'm guilty. I've been using the wrong terminology forever. How many of you use the word, and I know you're probably 100%, elderly, okay? We've communicated about people being elderly. We've probably used the words elderly with frail. You know, if you don't, most of if you have children, most of them recreationally say, "Oh, you must be getting dementia if you don't respond to them fast enough." So it's pretty hard. I mean, when I took the litmus test of the kind of vocabulary words that I used, it was pretty depressing. So I'm just going to throw some things out here, and you can unmute yourself to answer some of these. So, why do you think what is the goal of reframing aging communication? Anybody want to jump in?
Can I ask a question just to?
Yeah, just what do you think the goal of reframing aging communication should be about? So what I would hope you would look for is making it positive, equitable, and focus more on thriving than decline, right? Because, you know, our stories about aging always seem to and then their hips went, and then their knees went, and their shoulders went. And so it's really important. How about stereotypes? Can you give me some examples of stereotypes and prejudice and discrimination in ageism? How about technology? What do they say about older people and technology?
Too old to learn?
You got it. That is absolutely right. And again, all older people are frail. Um, and the other thing is about the prejudice. Let's be honest. People, I was guilty of it. No more, but I was guilty of it. The prejudice of feeling pity when you see somebody having to use a walker the thoughts go through our head, oh, geez, that's one of the signs of wheelchair next. And it's hard. And the discrimination part of it is in terms of employment, let's face it, it is very hard to get a job at a certain age because they're assuming that because older people are less tech savvy and they're just going to be less capable and they might require more sick days than the normal person. So that's the discrimination. And according to three sources I had, it said ageism costs the US health system about 63 billion a year. I was kind of surprised at that, by the way. But you know, uh, not only health costs, but more than that in terms of the different challenges in terms of advancing. Although a lot of younger people are making a lot of money promoting ageism in terms of you can't go on YouTube and TikTok not to see the number of people who are training you, who are pumping your muscles up, who are giving you all kinds of physical and mental. Deepak Chopra, for example, is really raking it in with meditation for his older base. Well, he's older now too, so he's got a pretty strong older base. And so what kind of phrases do you think you should avoid, uh, you know, uh, in terms of terminology for age inclusion? One is senior moment. I've used it, which is really insane that I've used that. But senior moment, the elderly, or referring to somebody still working at a, a certain age. Where are we? Where are we? Oh, and retired and inactive. And what we would recommend is to use positive, neural, or empowering terms like, I know you're not going to believe this, but guess what? The one thing that should be consistent when talking about people of a certain age is to say older adults and active in the community, or actually say, you could say whatever you are. You can say older in their 60s or 70s or whatever, not to be so focused on their actual age. So the other thing that I love is prompts. What prompts will help you frame aging positively? And obviously, um, I believe is what strengths come with experience and how does your community benefit when all ages are included? Lastly, how can we help people of all ages thrive together? Now, I don't care what kind of, if you, for example, we talk about governance a lot. I think about governance within as a community thing. I'm very active. I've always been active. I've lived in 5 states in the US. I've also lived in Italy for a number of years. I lived in Australia. So I've loved places, and I always look at how their government works and advocacy. And so for AI and older adults, these governments, even our federal government, needs to put in the guardrails, and we use that word all the time. What does that mean? It just means you get a fixed criteria in terms of I love Noelle back in the beginning. She always used this pizza shop that she goes to, and so we would make fun of like it could do your nails. You would have to put in enough guardrails so the pizza shop wasn't going to change your tire or again do your nails and things like that. And the same thing for the language of aging to avoid that in terms of governance. I would want every single community, no matter what level, local, state, or federal, to have people who are smart enough. And that's the same thing in terms of, cultural discrimination, color, gender discrimination. Um, that should all be there. It could all be baked in together. And if you have those kind of jobs, it's important to represent that all the time. Now, there are a lot of companies who actually target older adults to sell them things. You could even go on to Amazon, and you will be shocked at some of the searches that if they know you are older and you're looking for something, I will tell you they skew towards products of a certain age. And guess what? The algorithms come up with testimonials from the 5 stars down to the 1 star with people who are closer to how they're identifying you, the customer. That you're going to believe somebody who's closer to perhaps your own age versus the 20-year-old who's trashing on the product for whatever reason. So I would like to now switch over to the slides and get your feedback on that. And again, AI, I don't know if any of you use Gamma. I use Gamma frequently. My favorite thing at the place where I'm teaching right now, there are several Ethiopians, and a man showed up for the first time, and they're very multicultural in this building, which I love. And I showed him how to use Gamma. And his prompt was he wanted to know what Ethiopia would look like by 2040 in terms of product, youth, technology. It made 10 slides that he couldn't believe it. I gave the link. He only had brought his phone by his way as his tool. He sent it to his children, and he said he had made it, and they couldn't believe it. They're like, how did you do that? It's impossible. How did you do that? So when I put that thing about flipping the switch, here's how I feel. A lot of people, once they get into adult communities, and it may be, there's so many versions of adult communities now, right? Whether you need support, assisted living, or if you just like to hang out because you don't want to have a bunch of 5-year-olds riding their bikes on your street, whatever motivates people to live in these communities. The thing is that they have people who are pretty smart, who they have the money to do pretty robust presentations in terms of experienced individuals. That happens at the facility I am. People talk at them. So the flipping the switch means I love the fact that so many of these individuals, like TS from Ethiopia, is going to be able to present this slideshow. He will present it. Sure, I'll do it off my computer with an HDMI cable. They have a 90-inch TV that I got Georgetown students to donate to them so we could do larger presentations in the dining area because that's the most seating area. But it's really exciting. And we're going to go to an Ethiopian bakery because apparently it's hard to get people to show up to things unless you give them a snack. That seems to be one of the binding things there. So again, there's so many different formats. We're starting a poetry club. We're starting a memoir club because I showed one woman today. I said, give me 10 things about your life. I don't care what order. What did you like when you're 5 years old? What'd you do as a teenager? Blah, blah, blah. We just stacked them in. And then I just asked Chat, chronologically reorder this and make it a memoir. And what it came up with was very exciting. And she's 88 years old. Well, my God, it's like I gave her an injection of something. She came alive like you would not believe because, most people talk about, yeah, one day I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write my story. So the beauty is that now they're believers that they could actually write their story. So that's fun. So let me go to the slideshow here. Make sure I can open this. There we go. Can you see it?
Yes.
Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Great. Okay. My only problem is again, let me get rid of, sorry about this. I'm trying to get rid of the captions. Where are you, captions? Why are you doing this to me? Sorry. Usually it's right on my bar.
Mm.
By the way, one of the things I did, and don't laugh at me, because I know this sounds like a cliche. I was pulled into a garden club when I moved to Virginia. I was having a pity party. I'd lived in Westport, Connecticut, which is a fabulous place to live. I'd always been around water. So here I come into this place, Virginia, where most people were federal employees, blah, blah, blah. And one day there are three women, picture like Hamlet, the witch or the three witches from Shakespeare. Uh, Instead of a cauldron, they were mulching. And I said, "Oh, it's one of those marches where it was like 35 degrees. Oh, you should go inside. I'm sure they'll give you free coffee or soup." And they go, "They've never given us anything." And I realized that the garden that they were working on um, was going to probably be beautification for the Whole Foods. It was pre-Whole Foods, another typical like Whole Foods before that. So I march in and I kind of told you that I did major events where I used to pull millions of dollars out of large, pretty well-known corporations. And I went to the manager. I said, "There are three really older women out there, and they were very cold. And they said, you've never done anything." I go out, and one of them grabs me by the arm and said, "I don't care where you live. You're joining this garden club." And back then, I was still in my early 50s, and I was still afraid of older women. So I go, okay, I'll come to it." So I got kind of into it. And then I was the president of 60 garden clubs or whatever. Guess what I ended up doing? I was the first virtual resource person. And I'm going to tell you, yes, garden club ladies are usually over 50. And I'm being polite on that. I taught them to Zoom. I taught them to screen share. I taught them how to do so many cool presentations. This was all before chat. And then in the last 3 years, I taught them how to use chat and also Gamma to do presentations. And so, believe it or not, I am an evangelist for giving those skill sets because the one thing is that AI democratizes aging. There's no reason why the tools of what you younger individuals like Sky, there's no reason why I can't have the power of learning what you know. It's just that obviously the applications of how it is used, I'm not going to be selling a $5 million company on how they should add to their SaaS, whatever. Not interested. But so it's very different. So let's go. So here we go for challenging ageism. Let me move this for a second. I see you guys. All right. So again, you can see the definition of ageism based on age and targeting. And I covered some of these. It's hard. I mean, because I hang out with people, I can see how this does impact them. And I have some genius friends who are in their 70s who are just tech geniuses. We're involved with so many software breakthroughs in the long history of employment and work for amazing companies. And, you know, they're having fun with AI, but they feel that there's no hope for them to actually get employed back at Oracle or IBM, where some of them used to work. So, here's we talked about the stereotypes. So again, the prompting, the kind of language, very important. And again, I'm guilty of all of this. And I am one. I am older. I am an older person. And so, you know, I really do understand the dilemma of rethinking and getting it right. So I love this term. I never heard of it before, but heterogeneity. Who knew this? So the ways to look at people and how you describe them or engage, which I thought was kind of cool in terms of the correct language. So look, recognizing this broad spectrum of individual differences, very critical. So anybody don't hesitate to ask anything as I go through these. Um, I love this. There's so many people who are making so much money on social media, on TikTok. I mean, I don't know if any of you saw a recent news report on a piece, and I always love it because when I worked at the Day Show, we did all these little vignettes. So I really get excited when I see a good thing about seniors making a fortune on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. And some of it's silly. Some of them are like 80-year-old brothers dancing and doing silly hats and stuff like that. But they have over 1 million um, people looking in on them, and they're laughing all the way to the bank. So I do like late career stories. I think that they're positive because although you're not there yet yourselves, you will be someday. And so I look at myself, people really don't know how old I am, which is, I like that part. But what I really enjoy about it is that people are like, well, why are you so busy? Why are you doing this? And I love the fact that I am implementing school tools for these individuals who might have an amazing story to share after they learn how to use those tools too. I don't know. I did help one person do a TikTok, but she wouldn't listen to me because she kept changing hats in her 1 minute. And I couldn't break her of that habit because it was pretty crazy. But I haven't checked in with her for a while. But I have actually given a few people some ideas for TikTok. And they do have a following. I don't know. I don't think they're making a lot of money, but they might be making maybe $30 a month. Okay. So pretty silly, but there you go. All right. And again, prompting to prevent ageism. So I am guilty of this too. Number two, to reflect that heterogeneity is generate an image of a senior citizen. I have done that. I am guilty. I have done that. So confidently using a smartphone or whatever. Um, you can see right about older adults reflecting their diverse experiences and capabilities, and challenging stereotypes, about diversity and intergenerational. Come on, we have younger relatives, either children. I mean, I have a 34-year-old. I actually know, do you know, I know more AI than my son, and that's a whole other subject. But the only thing I did for him is I taught him how to use chat and he got a better job. That's the only thing he did with AI. Um, so the business case for age inclusive AI. Look at this marketplace. I mean, this is huge. 2.1 billion. All of you are just getting older, right? And so the market is huge. It's huge right now because boomers own multiple homes in some cases, multiple homes. Um, they might have two vehicles. They are able to travel. Um, Now, obviously, not all boomers, but there's a significant amount of comfort right now in the boomer population. So look at these statistics, the 2.1 billion by 2050. That's huge. And it's the fastest growing segment. So the implementation, some of this is just common sense, right? How do you knock out age bias and obviously implement comprehensive age inclusive style guides? And believe it or not, like AARP, National Council of Aging, all their websites, you can find which I never knew existed, style guides. And the style guides are the recommended language that one should be using when you're describing things for older adults. So, any questions? Oh, and I like the metrics to monitor for bias reduction. Click feedback. Now, ironically, there are businesses who want to highlight aging. They want to highlight aging to show that they are frail or whatever because they have a gooder service that they're trying to pitch you that if mom's falling apart, well, they'll be there to give them physical therapy or things like that. So, if that's your business goal, I don't know what to say to you, but I understand. I guess I do understand because you have to figure out how you're going to rope in people. But if it could be avoided, it would be great. So I kind of like this, the key performance, KPI, indicators. You can do language. Look at all I mean, this is things we have learned in the Institute through Noel. Language audit stores, diversity metrics, feedback across age groups. It's really fun. I don't know how many apps you guys use, but take Claude, Perplexity, Chat. What am I missing that I usually do? Anyhow, that's enough. But it is amazing when you take on a role and make yourself a different age. Like I love to pretend I'm a millennial, and then I talk about older adults and I ask them about talking to my advanced age parent to see what they recommend. And it's really, I know it may sound like a crazy exercise to you, but you should try it because you may be shocked if you're a parent right now. And if you happen to have your own millennial at home, you will see what these different apps are recommending. It might surprise you. And again, bias detection and design adoption rates, all, things we know are terribly important. So, you know, how many of us have thought about age limiting their abilities? Yeah, I'm not going to be climbing Everest now. That was never on my list, but it's totally off my list. Okay. Um, I might still be up for seeing if I can downhill ski on a black diamond course. I used to be a skier. Are there any things which you've given up for a while that you would try again, by the way? Is there anything, a sport or something that you think you've aged out of that you'd have the guts to go back to?
With
Everybody's
cross country
cross country skiing.
skiing. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to love that. I haven't tried that for a while, but you've put that in my head. We don't get that much snow here anymore, by the way. So that is one of the problems. So, oh, and the other thing is, you know, when I lived in Italy, everybody wanted to practice English with me. So that I failed to learn Italian because I was a communication director of a very large enterprise with the America's Cup. And they'd be chatty, chatty. Is this the right word? Whatever. And I'm like, oh, well, how do you say it in Italian? No, it's okay. We tell you later. So I got nowhere. So yes, going back and trying to pick up a language again is one of the, but with AI, we can cheat. So, and cheat's not the right word. We now have the skill set to be able to communicate easier, especially if we get, I don't know if any of you are going to put your money down on the new Apple iPods where you can instantly hold your phone and it will translate for them. And when they talk back to you, it translates right to your pod. So that's pretty incredible. So action plan, things you can do when you're doing again. I'm going to say this in the governance realm about looking at your prompts. Um, your language, the KPIs from the slide, and if uh, create your own style guides, which might be kind of cool with your own family. Even if you're not that old, you can create guardrails with your own family in terms of language. How's that one sound? And I love this actively seek perspectives from diverse age groups when making decisions or designing solutions. This should not only be one way ever. So I'm going to stop sharing. Does anybody have any questions about anything?
I
Yeah,
do.
sure, I do. Thanks so much. This is a lot of fun. This is Eve Kadar.
Oh, how are
Um,
you?
I'm doing all right, thanks. So what I'm finding, I mean, I love all these ideas, and I hope you're going to share the slides because
Totally, totally.
it's there's a lot of anxiety about technology in general. They're very, I mean, the the elders that I've been interacting with, including my mother who's 95,
95?
95 and kicking it. She's independent, but she's
I love it. I
I would
love
say
it.
frustrating for me to deal with on the technology level. There's a lot of anxiety that that this isn't good for humanity in general. We shouldn't be doing this stuff.
You mean
And
that's what you get as feedback with the
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. I can't even get her to like Alexa. I've purchased more than one item for her on these. And it's not. So I was wondering how you deal with that pushback. That's why
So
I'm asking.
I am the baby of 5 children. So that already positions me as the ham, as the terminology we say in English, the ham in the family. So I would constantly have to come up with humor to engage with my older siblings. So when I got into this space of helping older individuals with technology, especially 10 years ago. It's really funny. I was at the very same, I told you I was at the very first voice conference that Amazon held, and Noelle was there. Never met her, but and I should have pressed harder to get Amazon to hire me, but at that time I was engaging on another level for other work I had to do. But so I always get it when I find out what music they enjoyed. I discovered a woman who has macular degeneration in the building. She didn't want to tell anybody she's actually blind. Okay, she is bona fide blind. But when I put an Alexa in her apartment and she realized she sang opera in New York, she did a metropolitan performance like 4 times in the chorus, okay? She auditioned and got on, but she would always be hired for weddings and big events. And so when she realized voice commanding operas by and then she would ask for really crazy stuff that might have been harder. You would think, "Oh, I bet you it doesn't have that in its Play Deck, right? In Spotify or whatever, the free version of Alexa." It did. And I don't know anybody who I have yet to meet somebody who does not like music, okay? And in fact, the very first person I had using an Alexa when we started to do Frank Sinatra, she belted out my way, complete Alzheimer's. She belted out my way. And she looked at me and she goes, I bet you I gave you a little surprise. And I was like, oh, yes, you did. And that joy I can only tell you, you've got to make them laugh. Even if you do knock knock jokes, okay? If you have an Alexa and you go like, tell me a knock knock joke, and they're so bad, but they're so bad that they're funny, okay? And a lot of people who are older have grandchildren. There are 6 people, we only gave out 20 Alexas to start with as a beta test. There's 6 people have grandchildren, and I admit we can hear all their asks, by the way, and we know when the grandchildren are visiting because they ask crazy questions, and you just know they're having fun. And again, there's nothing wrong with factoring in fun. And if somebody's depressed or lonely, they can, most people who have caregivers, what do? They have a recliner. Okay, let's go sit grandma or grandpa in the recliner or your client and they're in front of a TV all day long. I had a woman who had oh, what was her condition? She had Parkinson's disease, the second thing, but she had something before that. She was confined to a wheelchair, and she had this routine with her caregiver who was with her 50 hours a week. They had all their shows, and that's what they did every day. They'd do the snack break, the lunch break, all of that. Well, when I showed the caregiver, who was from Sierra Leone, on her phone, and we started playing trivia, the woman called me up. She was wonderful. I think she was only like 78. And she goes, "Damn you, Sherry." And I go, "Karen, what's wrong?" And she goes, "You've ruined it. I don't watch my programs all day. She's asking me all these questions to make sure my brain is functioning." I loved it. Okay. How can you not love that? And then I had and then I was a present, you'll love this, a 90th birthday present for a mother of a woman I met through a tech conference. And she wanted to have her mother learn how to use an app. Basically, we thought chat because at that time it had the best free parameters. But it turns out she had a self-published book 25 years ago. And it turns out she still had the Word file on the book. So I showed her how she could cut and paste it into chat to edit it because it was about spirit fairies. Okay, don't laugh, but this is the kind of stuff I do, spirit fairies. And apparently her fairies had given her updated information that she wanted to edit in. And my gosh, it was just incredible. Her daughter wanted to murder me, of course, because her mother then asked for her 91st birthday, because a whole year plus has gone by, is for her daughters to pay to for the self-published book. So yeah, and I have so many stories. I have a woman who was born with an umbilical cord around her neck, and so she was sent away to a private school for disabled children. She worked for the EPA for 38 years doing very menial stuff, but she's at this facility, and guess what? She started swimming and winning all the medals that senior Olympics and things can win. I showed her how to prompt, and I never thought in 1,000 years that she would ever be able to do this. She called me at 8 o'clock at night following the session that I did it. She read me the story, and then we illustrated. It almost made me cry. It was so amazing because she had a great niece and nephew. And it kind of was like Hansel and Gretel, by the way, but it incorporated her relatives, and she had promised them to send a news story at least once or twice a month. So think of the incredible joy to connect in that way, to empower yourself in that way, to give this gift. And I'm sure those little kids probably think, oh, there's crazy Aunt Carol. But crazy Aunt Carol proved that she was capable of creating stories just for them, and pretty cool illustrations too. I love the illustrations. So, and in fact, we sent it to the Washington Post, who are going to do a story about what I'm doing. It'll probably come out during the holidays because they said it's like a holiday story, feel good. But that's okay. That's perfectly fine. So again, the tools, a lot of the things I'm telling you are advanced stage. If you dial it back and you're in positions where you sold a contract to a company that does a lot of work in governance, again, there's the governance, you need to be aware of the language and you need to change it for yourself. Look, I told you I was guilty of it, and now I have to watch how I represent it as well. And in fact, the group who showed up today, and I said, what are the things which bother you the most? And they said, when the people who cut their grass at their facility, um, somebody asked one of them some information about the building, go, oh, just ask any of those really old people that are sitting on the bench. And that was interesting that one of the women had picked up on that. And she goes, I never thought about it. I looked at where I live as an apartment building, an independent apartment building. But when they said that, it kind of hit home. Uh, so, are there any? Oh, we have questions. Where are we? Where are we?
Yes, I do. This is Adrian.
Sorry,
Hi,
go ahead.
Sherry. Yes, yeah, thank you for the presentation because you can feel the passion. So my question is, what aging populations show lower engagement with AI? And what social, educational, or technological barrier explain this gap? So according to you.
Lower engagement. Okay.
Mhm,
So I
yeah.
told you, I work with, I work with a variety of
Mhm,
older individuals, and I do deal with people with dementia and Alzheimer's. So,
mhm,
um, that is lower engagement in terms of teaching them how to prompt independently is
mhm,
kind of a lost cause. But I'm telling you, when you're doing a session with them, you will be amazed how much you can pull out of them in terms of sensory things,
mhm,
color, a variety of things, which are all there. And your other things. And again, I mean, I have people all the time with dementia. I get them to prompt. I'll say, what color dress can Cinderella wear? And I said, we're so tired of her looking like the rag queen. And they'll come out with they'll come out with actually interesting comments. In fact, one woman said, why does she have to wear a dress? Women don't wear dresses. I want her to be in pants. And I'm like, okay, our Cinderella's in pants. So, and yeah, she really, unfortunately, would go, as we say, off the property if we didn't keep tabs on her. Uh,
mhm,
what was the other one? Did I answer it in terms of the low level? It means you're going to have to work with them. You're going to
mhm,
have to co-prompt with them.
mhm.
But it's
But,
very doable and it's fun.
mhm,
You will find yourself having fun if you bake that into the process. Like,
mhm,
my favorite, I think I told this at the beginning, my
mhm,
favorite twist is to have the mean sister for
mhm,
Cinderella, who's named Drusilla, by the way, to
mhm.
get the prince. She always
Yes.
wins the prince, and
Mhm,
Cinderella doesn't win the prince. That's
mhm,
one of my favorites.
mhm. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Sharon.
But just see, your imagination, think about it. Your imagination is the secret trigger of the prompt, okay? It's your job to pull that out of them.
Okay. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anybody else?
Yeah, hi, this is Krishna. I have a question too.
Okay, great.
I'll keep it simple. I think I took away that probably the very first thing we want to focus on is language.
Okay.
That's my takeaway so far anyway.
Oh, good.
Language shapes AI training data and societal bias, and then there's impacts from there. So I was curious if that's true, then how do AI teams measure or ensure long-term fairness, considering that societal definitions of bias can evolve over time? I don't know
That's
if
a
this
great,
is true.
yeah,
Okay.
that's a great question. But they're not, these things are not all standalones. If you're in governance or if you're in a company and you have these guardrails, even before AI, there have always been guardrails, let's be honest. So what you just do is that you make sure when you're using prompting that all of that is mentioned. So again, the earliest example was, as we said, Noel used to do the pizza shop and make sure that it wasn't, that it didn't, you wouldn't ask it, it wouldn't come back, oh, well, we can do your nails between these hours or whatever. So the same kind of language is important. And again, it's not just age, it's the entire package of guardrails you put in to avoid bias. Okay. And there's a standard thing, you can do a prompt that you put into everything you're writing that you are looking for the output to represent, again, could be corporate or it could be community governance. I mean, I don't know specifically. I think it holds up for everything. I mean, are any of you baking in prompts every single time of cutting and pasting to guarantee that that's never an issue? I know I do because I live in a little town called Vienna and I've been on their case forever. And every time I look at their website, I go back to their website and I just bake in all the things in terms of the prompts. I'm saying this is what you need to know because some of the stuff was discriminatory and they didn't even realize it because they just aren't tuned into it. You know, when you take some of the language on smaller towns, except, well, you could take even a larger city and you put the URL in and you say, prompt it and say, let me know if diversity has been misrepresented on this website. And I'm going to tell you, it finds it faster than the speeding bullet. And you can define what you want it to find, right? Have you ever tried that? Try it. Do a URL of some town or where you live and ask that question. Are there are there words and language that is not addressing proper diversity, etc., and see what happens. I know I sent it to the mayor, who is a friend, and I go, look at all this stuff on your website. And she was shocked. And she goes, okay, we're going to have that conversation about AI, aren't we? And I go, yes, we are. So are there any more questions? Because we're almost up at the hour and I don't want to leave anything out. Anybody else? Again, you know, I've given examples. I think, I don't care what age you are, recreational AI was one of the things I mentioned. There, you know, when I was growing up, it was board games. We played Monopoly, oh my God, for forever. Forever. It seems like my entire childhood, that's the number one game that we would play. But now I play verbal games. I play trivia games with the individuals I hang out with. And I always make this comment when I'm in the community. I feel that I've returned to the way I used my rhythm of my neural response rate is around 35 years of age. I'm going to tell you that because I was wheels on fire, okay, when I was that age. I gave you a little clue of the stuff I was doing at a younger age. I just feel that I've gone back there because of the amount of engagement with AI, exploring constantly. And when I'm working with these older individuals, I think delight is the secret sauce. That dopamine and those endorphins, my God, it is great. And that's what you get. That's what you get when you do this right. So, is there anything else? Are we good? Again, thank you. I can't wait to share this because I know we had about 25 people who said they couldn't come to this, but hopefully this won't look too bad as a recording, Cheryl Lynn. Cheryl Lynn's our favorite person from the community. She is the motor behind all of this. And thanks to Sky for getting this cooking. Sky, are you still here? Did we lose Sky?
Nope, I am still here and I
Good.
appreciate this session.
Sky's got a little guy who we occasionally get to see who I've fallen in love with. So we're one of the days, Sky, we're going to do a Zoom with your little guy so I can meet him properly.
We're gonna have to. He's had me up for the last 24 plus hours off of 3 hours of sleep because he developed a ear infection. So I am working off of fumes now because we've been in the children's hospital.
Oh, sorry
Oh
for
gosh,
that.
I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, you didn't need that. Well,
Mm,
again, I look forward
we
to
wish you recovery.
anytime you want to readdress it. There's just, you know, again, the recreational AI, we're going to talk about a whole lot more in the community because it's that kind of escape where you can get a little brain pause from Noel, where we have to learn all this stuff and your brain feels like it's exploding. A little recreational AI is kind of like having a little pause, a little break. So thank you all and have a great weekend.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Sherry.
Sherry. Okay, thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.